All right, what is going on? Hope you're having a great and wonderful day. Welcome to the JetEye gaming channel. My name is Jet, and today we're gonna go over part 2 of the Atlas server. So today what we're gonna get into is the INI file, which has a few tweaks here and there. You're gonna kind of want to tweak things. We'll show you a batch script that you can use to copy all of the information from one file to all of the other grids. And also we'll get into a little bit of what the server.json file has within it. So if you're ready to rock and roll, let's do this. Alright, so we're here in the GameUserSettings.ini. Most of these settings come from Arc, so if you've run a Arc server before, then you're very familiar with these. The server settings is what you're gonna be paying the most attention to. Show map player shows your location on the map. Allow third person allows you to go into third person versus locking it to first person. PVPVE in PvP, do you want your structures when you put it down to start losing health immediately, or do you want a permanent structure and like it has to take damage from something? Server crosshair, you get the crosshair for ranged weapons. Health bars, if you hit something, a creature, it'll show a health bar for it. Max structures range is how many structures you can build within a certain radius before the server will stop you. Oxygen swim speed multiplier, I don't think we can even use it on here. I never tested it, but in Arc it increased your swim speed with a higher amount of oxygen. Structure prevent resource radius multiplier, if you put a foundation down, how much of the resources is prevented around that foundation. Tribe name change cooldown, if you change the name of your tribe, there's a cooldown. I've not tested it, but that's what it worked for on Arc, and these are just copied from Arc. Allow hide damage source from logs. Don't know what that entails, but I'm pretty sure if something hits your structure, it's not going to tell you, but if something destroys one of your structures, it should tell you. Again, I've not messed with that particular setting. Raid Dino character food drain multiplier. I don't think that applies here unless they've set any creatures as a raid dino. That would probably be maybe a Drake or Hydra that you'd have to pay coin to get. I don't know if they consider those as raid dinos or not. This is a Arc setting that increase or decrease the food drain for the Titanosaurus or any of the extinction monsters, I believe. PVE dino decay period multiplier, that same as the structure decay multiplier, but this applies to your tames. Kick idle period, if you stay on the server too long, you're gonna get kicked. I think these are in seconds. Per platform max structure multiplier, I've not messed with this, so I know in Arc that changed how much you can build on a boat, but I don't know if that applies because the boats are a bit different in Atlas. Auto save period. In Arc, every time the game would save, it would lag the entire server. In Atlas, it doesn't do that, so 5 minutes as a auto save is fine. Listen server tether multiplier, there's no tether, there's no non-dedicated servers, you don't need to worry about that. Max tame dinos is how many tamed creatures you can have. That includes crew members. Archon game log buffer is how much information does the server save for you to be able to view when you log in through an Archon type program. What Archon does is it gives you a protocol where somebody can access the server without actually logging in to the game, and it lets you do administrative functions. Show floating and damage text. It shows a number when you hit something. Allow hit marker. If you hit something, it shows an X over your crosshair. If you have crosshairs, if you don't, it'll just show an X where the crosshair would have been. Admin logging. Once you do an admin command, it shows up on the chat. With Atlas, it doesn't show up on the entire grid, just that one server, because your admin commands only apply to that server, if you understand what I'm saying. Tribe log destroyed, enemy structures. Should your tribe log show that you destroyed an enemy structure? Taming speed multiplier, how fast it is you're gonna tame. The higher it is, the faster you tame. Harvest multiplier, more resources. XP multiplier, the faster you level. Resource respawn period, the lower the respawn period, the faster that resources will respawn. Force all structure locking is when you place something down, it will immediately be locked. That means nobody can get into it except for you and your company. And then you can also set like different company levels of which structure that you can do some search on that. Always notify player left and always notify player join. If somebody joins, it'll show you. Somebody left, it'll show you. You also need to set that on your client as well in order to see it. If these are turned off, even if you turn it off in your client, you would not be able to see it. Server admin password, we override that with our launcher settings. Actually, everything from server admin password on down is overridden with the launcher that I showed you in the first video. Now, all of the things here under shooter game user settings is null and void, because that stuff is for graphics and all of your settings as if you were in game. The server itself doesn't need any of that. Same thing with scalability groups, that messes with your graphics. Now, session settings. The session name, you don't need it because that's dictated in your JSON file. The script engine game settings, max players, max reserved slots, you set that on the launcher. So you don't need to set that here. The helper admin tool is a mod that I installed on there and I took off, and it does, because it didn't work too well for me. It caused me a whole lot of issues, but you don't need any of that unless you have the helper admin tool mod. Okay, that's our GameUserSettings.ini. Next, let's take a look at the Game.ini. The script game, shooter game, blah blah blah. Here, PVE disable friendly fire equals false. So if PVE disable friendly fire equals true, then you would not be able to attack your teammates. Now, mating interval. This is how often your tames can mate. Egg hatch speed multiplier is how long it takes for an egg to hatch. Baby mature speed is how long for a baby to mature into an adult. Allow unlimited respect equals 2. True. I don't think that works because we still have a finite number of respects, which of course one of the previous patches have added the ability to buy a respect potion from the Freeport town. Now here, is where it gets a little interesting. These are the settings for your character. Granted, they take these settings, these stats, directly from Arc, but some of them cannot be edited, like melee damage, movement speed, stuff like that. What you can edit is number 7, which is your weight. You can edit the base weight, the per stat multiplier, all that for weight. I've edited that on here. I've done increased melee damage and something else for tames, but I think the ones for tames are not working. So yeah, they didn't seem to work when I tested it within the game. So I know for sure that the base stat for weight works for players. You're gonna have to go through, and your mileage may vary on each one of these. Now, I believe 12, 13, 14, and 15 are your vitamins. How much vitamins you get from the very beginning, how much vitamins you can get per level, I guess. I don't think, yeah, there's no setting for per level. Okay, so just your base vitamins from 12, 13, 14, and 15. As everybody has expressed their grief with the vitamin system, here's how you can lessen the burden, lessen the impact, if you so choose. And that is everything we have for the Game.ini. Now, what I'm going to show you here is a way for you to keep track. So for me, I run 18 servers on this server machine. So the way that I have it is I go into my Atlas server, right? Then go down to shooter game, and then go into save. Now here are all of the different grids. I have the 16 or the 18 grids here. Each one of those grids has its own GameUserSettings.ini and Game.ini. What I've done is I've created Game.ini and GameUserSettings.ini in the saved folder. This is where I edit all of the information I need to edit. Once I've finished editing there, I go back to my Atlas server folder, and I have a batch file that'll copy. So the Game.ini batch file, what it does, it goes into the saved Game.ini file, copies that over to server 31's config Windows Server Game.ini. That is where that server would pull its Game.ini file, and I did that same file to copy to every single one of my 18 grids. Same thing with the GameUserSettings.ini. You can see that I put xcopy on the top. You don't have to do that. I started with xcopy but ended up forgetting to put X at the beginning, but it still works either way, as long as you're using it within this concept. So let me show you the full path of where your file is going to be loaded. This I call the master Game.ini and the master GameUserSettings.ini. Then when you go into one of the server folders, into config Windows Server, is where the INIs for each server is located. Just got to remember which path it is. So let me go over it one more time. Back at Atlas server settings, we're going to edit Game.ini. The master is located under Atlas Server Shooter Games saved and then Game.ini. The server specific Game.ini is under Atlas Server Shooter Games saved. The grid number, config Windows Server, and then Game.ini. /y will tell it to automatically overwrite what's already there. If you don't put /y there, what's gonna happen is it's gonna ask you every time you copy over. It says, do you want to overwrite this file? And it's gonna ask you that however many servers that you're running. Now, that is everything for the INI files. Let's go back into our server grid editor and put in the ship path. So our server is located here, server grid 2x2. Open that up and you'll see where we left off. We can hide the island names real quickly. Where is it? No, not island name, discovery zone. Hide the discovery zone. And then we're gonna come in here and edit locks. You want to lock everything but ship paths. Make sure that's unlocked. Now, the next thing you're gonna do is use the help, hit controls, and it'll tell you that pressing P while on the map will spawn a ship point. We're gonna put 2 ship points. You can put as many as you want as long as they don't intersect an island. And if they intersect, you may run into issues again because they might be stalling each other, like pushing each other off course. But the general rule that I keep is don't cross paths. So the first path that we're gonna put is in this grid right here. Make sure that you enable show ship paths, or when you press P, nothing's gonna happen. Well, something's gonna happen, but you won't see it. We're gonna take one of these, drag it down here, the other one, drag it down here. The blue circle is where the ship is going to spawn. Now we have a triangular shape right here. If we wanted to make it a square, mouse over one of the nodes and hit the plus key on your number pad, and then you can move this around here and move this here, just to make sure that they're not intersecting the island. We can do the same here on this grid. It doesn't matter where the spawn point is, just know that wherever you put it, that is where that particular ship will spawn. Okay, now I have a notepad here that I put some information on. You can ignore all this Firestone stuff for now. What we're interested in is NPC Trader 1. We're gonna put that on this one. So if you mouse over it, it turns into a finger. Hit control, it will turn into a pen. Just click, left click, and then put NPC Trader 1. The auto spawn interval is how often it's going to spawn. We're gonna put 21,600, which is the stats set up on official server. You can change that to a different number if you so desire. We're gonna apply that. The next node, or the next path, we're gonna change that to ghost ship. Place the ghost ship, put the same thing, 21,600, and then we're gonna put the blueprint for the ghost ship here and apply. And that is how you put ship paths in. Once you've done that, you're gonna have to hide the ship path and save your file. And then all you've got to do is do another export, take that information and overwrite your files under shooter game, and then launch the server. When you overwrite those files, make sure that your server is not running. Overwrite the files, launch the server, and then it'll be good to go. The other thing that we're going to look at here is the server grid.json file, which is located at the place where I put it is under the server grid editor in projects 2x2 grid. And I'm sorry, we're gonna go back and look at the exported one. So back up to server grid master and go to export, and then edit the server grid editor.json. Okay, so here is our grid size that we did in the editor from last time. We don't need to worry about anything else. Now here, the friendly name, if you put ham sandwich in there and you want to change it to banana or something, just change it at the world friendly name. And one thing I forgot to mention in the last video is how to put a password. Right here under World Atlas password, you put that password there and it will apply to every grid. Easy to deal with here. This shows the location of each and every island as exported from your server grid editor. The next time we're probably gonna go in here and dive deep. It's gonna be a long process to put the power stones onto the server grid editor or the server grid.json. Save that for next time. But anyways, all right, so that's all the time that we have for today. We went over some ini files, the GameUserSettings ini and the Game.ini. And then we also did a little bit on the JSON file, which we will dive into a little bit more once we go into the power stones. And then the last thing that we're gonna do is show you a little bit about the Redis server. Now, if you are interested, what I am trying to do is maybe get a whole bunch of group of people together and imagine that you have your grid, you sail across and go into the end of your grid, but it's not really the end. You move on to somebody else's grid within the group collection. So I want to try to get something like that set up. If we have enough people, we could even replicate the official servers or even make it bigger than the official servers. But that's going to take a lot of time and effort. Hopefully, we can achieve that goal at some point. But anyways, that is all the time that we got for today. Thank you for coming by. If you enjoyed the series, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe as well. And also, I stream on twitch.tv/TyJetEye. The link will be in the description below. Hope you all have a great and wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for coming by. We'll see you all next time. Peace!